The sun rose slowly over the Nile, spreading golden warmth across the land like a soft linen sheet laid out over a sleeping body. Palm fronds stirred gently in the breeze. Birds chirped in soft melodic trills, and the quiet hum of early morning. Life began to rise from the fertile banks. The great river shimmered, reflecting the dawn like a polished mirror. It was the beginning of another day in the ancient city of Weishart, what many would one day call Thebes. Among the mud-brick homes and shaded courtyards of this bustling city, nestled between temples and the rhythmic calls of vendors in the market, lived a man named Mena. He was not a farmer, nor a fisherman, nor a soldier. He was a scribe, one of the few who knew the language of the gods. In a world where most people lived by the movement of their hands in soil or water, Mena lived by the movement of his reed pen across parchment. Mena's home was modest but respectable. The walls were made of thick, sun-baked bricks, cool to the touch even during the midday heat. A simple wooden door, carved with symbols of protection and prosperity, opened into a small courtyard where a fig tree grew. In the morning, Mena would often sit beneath it with a bowl of dates, chewing slowly as he gazed at the sky, feeling the world come alive around him. He would then dress for the day, a linen kilt, wrapped carefully and fastened with a sash. A necklace with a small amulet shaped like Thoth, the god of wisdom and writing, rested lightly on his chest. His writing kit waited nearby, a simple wooden box with compartments for ink cakes, water, and a reed pen cut to a precise angle. He had made the pen himself, whittled from a plant grown along the river's edge. Each day was both routine and a little different. Much like the river that shaped his world, Mena was employed by a local temple, and occasionally by the estate of a nobleman. He would walk slowly along the dusty road, past the fragrant stalls of dried herbs and fresh bread, greeting the weavers and potters, his neighbors who knew his gentle face and quiet voice. He would arrive at the temple, its massive columns and painted reliefs both awe-inspiring and familiar. Inside, the cool air smelled of incense and limestone. He greeted the priests respectfully, and made his way to the scribe's chamber, a well-lit room with a stone bench and shelves filled with scrolls. There, his work began. Sometimes it was copying hymns to the gods, the words flowing in long, curling lines that matched the gentle cadence of the spoken chant. Sometimes it was documenting grain storage, counting rows and rows of carefully recorded offerings. On other days, he wrote letters for those who could not write their own love notes for shy young men, petitions to officials from worried elders, or final words for the dying who wanted to speak to the gods one last time. Though his work required precision, it also brought quiet joy. Mena loved the shape of the hieroglyphs, the bird, the eye, the open hand, and the way the ink pooled dark and rich before drying to a soft sheen. He often paused in his writing to imagine the stories behind the requests, the people behind the names. Sometimes, the high priest would ask him to translate dreams, a skilled thought to connect the world of the living and the divine. A noblewoman might come with her servants, recounting a strange vision of a crocodile wearing a crown or a lion that wept pearls. Mena would listen carefully, nodding slowly, and then consult his scrolls before offering his interpretation. These moments made him feel close to the gods, as though they whispered secrets through symbols only he could hear. In the afternoon, Mena would take a break and walk to the river. He liked to sit on the shore, dipping his feet in the water, watching fishermen throw nets and children chase one another. The scent of warm earth and papyrus filled the air. He often brought a scroll or a scrap of parchment, practicing new scripts or sketching the scene before him in quiet amusement. Once a little boy from the village came and sat beside him. The boy was curious, his eyes wide as he watched Mena draw a heron in careful strokes. Mena handed the boy his pen and showed him how to hold it, guiding his small fingers. It was a moment of still beauty, the sun glinting off the river. The boy's smile soft and unguarded. As evening fell, Mena would return home, tired but peaceful. He lit a small oil lamp and shared a simple meal: bread, lentils, a bit of cheese. Sometimes he had wine, sometimes a sweet cake given by a neighbor. He kept a small shrine in his home, where he offered prayers to Thoth, asking for clarity, for knowledge, for steady hands, and a strong memory. His dreams were gentle, often filled with flying birds and endless scrolls, and sometimes the voice of his mother, long past, singing old songs as she braided his hair. Mena's life was not filled with battles or monuments, but with quiet importance, a thread in the vast tapestry of Egypt. There were times he was called to the tombs of nobles, where he would inscribe funerary texts on walls or scrolls meant to accompany the dead. These were sacred tasks, requiring not only skill but reverence. He worked slowly, each symbol a prayer, a step in the soul's journey beyond. The tombs were often cool and silent, lit only by small lamps. He liked the echo of his pen against the stone, the hush of eternity that lived in those chambers. At the local school, Mena also taught young boys destined for clerical work. They sat cross-legged on mats, red pens in hand, eyes wide as he explained the stories behind each sign. He would tell them of Horus and Seth, of Osiris and his journey through the underworld. He reminded them that writing was not just recording, was remembering, honoring, invoking. The boys often groaned at the repetition, but Mena was patient. He knew that true mastery came not from speed, but from care. He never raised his voice, only guided with a soft word, a gentle correction. Later, many of those boys would become scribes themselves, carrying his calm presence in the ink on their hands. Festivals were a special joy. During the great celebrations, like Opet, or the Festival of the Valley, Mena would join the throngs in the streets. There was music, food, laughter. Processions moved through the avenues, carrying statues of the gods, draped in flowers and linen. Mena always watched with wonder, though he knew the words of the hymns by heart. One festival, he wrote a poem to Ammon, the hidden god, and presented it to the priests. It was accepted and read aloud in the temple court, his words echoing among the columns. It was a proud moment, though he showed it only with a small smile and lowered eyes, in the stillness of night. Mena sometimes wrote for himself thoughts on papyrus he never showed anyone. Reflections on the river, on the passage of time, on the stars that wheeled above him in their ancient dance. He wrote about his father, a mason who had dreamed of a quieter life for his son. He wrote about the way the city smelled after rain, rare and earthy, and the way papyrus reeds looked in the moonlight. He wrote about love, though he had never married. His heart had once stirred for a weaver's daughter, a woman with a laugh like wind chimes, but she had married another, and Mena had let the feeling drift away like petals on water. He was content with his quiet life, with his scrolls and his students, and the gods who walked with him in silence. Years passed, his hair thinned, his back curved, but his hands remained steady. People still came to him with letters and dreams, with prayers and contracts. The temple still called upon him for records, and the young still listened when he spoke. He never sought honor, but he was known. In the market, children waved. In the temple, his name was spoken with respect. He was part of the rhythm of the city, like the tolling of the temple drums or the turning of the seasons. When Mena finally passed from the world, his scrolls were placed with care in a box, and a small statue of Thoth was left at his shrine. The priests spoke soft prayers, and his students wept quietly. But in truth, he had never really left. His words remained in letters, in tombs, in the hearts of those he taught. And somewhere, deep in the hush of Waysort, the river still whispered his name, carrying it into the ages like a message written in water and light.